So we will be having a fully functional Angular app. In order to install Angular, we'll be using npm. And the command is very simple. It's npm install -g at angular/CLI. I spelled that wrong. Angular. So this will install the CLI. Notice the G flag, which means that this is installed globally. So anywhere we use Angular in our terminal prompt in any part of our computer will always have Angular working. So just to make sure that we have Angular installed, let's do ngv, and we should get something like this. And we have the 3 versions for Angular CLI, Node, and OS. This shows that our CLI has been installed. Now, what we should do now is we should actually create the application which will have all the contents of our Angular file. So if we ls right now, we can see that Angular is currently empty, but we're about to populate it with ng new ng test. And ng test is what we're going to call it. This is where all the contents of our application is going to reside in. And just to make it easy on us, so we don't have to go over the intermediary steps of installing this new application, we're just going to do default and skip install, which will basically, it's just a shortcut. So we can see that all the files that have been installed are shown here. And if we ls now, we see that ng-test now exists. Now, before we go in further, let's see how this looks like in Visual Studio. And as you can see, we have ng-test and we have all the relevant files. Now, the files that we'll be using the most reside in app, where we have app.component.css. This is where we're going to put all our CSS configurations. .html. You can see that they already have some content in here, and interestingly enough, they also have CSS in here. I don't know why it's set to default, but a good idea is to move all of the CSS into this folder. We have .spec.ts. This is where you do a lot of your testing, be it unit testing or structural testing, whatever, just to make sure that everything is working. We'll look more into this in the future because this is a very complex topic, but just know that it exists. .ts, this is where we have our app component, which will be exported. Note that Angular uses components, so whatever is within this component is going to be displayed on our web page. And we can create multiple components as well via the generate command, which I'll also go over. And this is where we have our declarations. The app module is exported, and we'll talk more about this in the future. But before we go on, I want to see how this looks in our local host. So what I'm going to do is, what I just did is I created a new terminal, and I'm going to do ng serve o. This will effectively show our contents in a localhost web page. And it's saying it's not going to work because it's not in the Angular directory. So let's cd and try the same command again. And it's going to ask you a few questions. We'll just say yes. And we have an error. It's saying that cannot find module at Angular dev kit. So what this means is that there's a few dependencies that need to be installed in order for this to work that have not been installed as of yet. So this is a common error that I've seen happen to a lot of people. So what I want to do is I want to go over this, how to solve this error. This is a simple Stack Overflow solution, but what they want you to do is simply install the Angular dev kit build Angular dependency. So in order to do that, we'll do npm install save dev and then the dependency that we need. Okay, it looks like the file has been installed. There's a few more things that it needs to go over. And one thing I want you guys to note is that I'm using this terminal, but I've also used a separate terminal on my Mac. It doesn't matter which one you use. I'm just using this now because it's in closer proximity to the files that I'm going to be editing. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter which terminal window you use. So now that we have this dependency installed, let's do let's just do ngserve o to show you that what happens once we install the dependency. So we'll still get the error last time. So the solution to this is a simple step. It's npm link. So we're linking the new dependency with our current configuration. And now we can do, we see that 282 packages have been added, and we can do ngserve -o. And as you can see, it's compiling all the necessary dependencies, which means that it's working. And in a few moments, we should have ng-test finally working. Now, as you can see, this is the default page that Angular will create for us. And you see ng-test app is running right here. So this is what is outputted on our main page. Note that the title has 2 brackets surrounding them. This is an Angular functionality that we'll go over in the future, but just know that this is called interpolation. And the title is probably defined somewhere in one of these files. Yep, it's defined here. We can change this right now. Let's call it library, because I think most probably we'll be making a library application. And as you can see, it does it in real time. So if we don't have to recompile or anything, and yep, library app is running, will automatically show. And one quick tip is while we're letting it run, we can create a new terminal so that we can do all our commands in here instead of having to stop this and do another command just to recompile again. So we have this new space. So there you have it. We have our new Angular web page, newly instantiated. In the next video, we'll be going over more in depth into how to actually use Angular. One thing we can do right now actually is we can delete everything in this .html file, and we can create some simple web page. So if we save this right now, you see that nothing appears because everything's been deleted. Let's do a quick div, and we'll center this text, and let's make a h1 tag, and we'll do welcome to title, and this will access the title variable via interpolation from this app component, since app component is what's being used in our declarations too at ng module, and we'll have welcome to library. You should go into each of these app.component, app.module, app.spec.ts, HTML, CSS, and see the contents of them. Understand what they do and why they exist. More specifically, look into .ts and app.module.ts as well as .html, because these 3 files will be used more often. .spec.ts is used for testing, and I'll go over how to do these testing implementations in a separate video. Now, before we go, I want to also bring your attention to extensions. The Angular Essentials is one that I've come to really enjoy while using Angular. It installs the following uh, applications onto your machine. For example, ESLint. ESLint is super helpful for checking for consistent style, um, having extra checks for bugs such as variable scope and other bugs which might be difficult to find in the future, such as undeclared variables which might leak into the global scope. So this is just one extension of many that this package will install. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We've successfully created an Angular app that does nothing but create the title, but we'll put a lot more into this in future videos. Thank you for watching and hope you guys have a great day. Peace.